What's the gayest, explicitly non-LGBT movie of 2021? You guessed it, Luca. After seeing the trailer, we had our hopes. Maybe this is Disney's first openly gay movie. They teased us before, but maybe this time is different. Although, this notion was squashed when Luca's director said it's a movie about childhood friendships. You'd think at this point, we take the dream of having representation and say, let it go. Yet Luca resembles the lived experiences of members of the LGBT community. The main character takes refuge under the water for fear of persecution from humans. The nearby town vilifies and hunts sea monsters, even though most of them have never seen one. Luca and Alberto hide in plain sight, but constantly get pointed out in the narrative. The entire premise of the movie focuses on the two getting a Vespa so they can ride away from discrimination. I mean, come on. At bare minimum, it's an allegory for the LGBT experience. However, I'm sure many of you still aren't convinced. So today, I thought I would go over the major pieces of LGBT imagery in the film, talk about Luca's significance in the Disney Cinematic Universe, plus what we can do as LGBT fans going forward. I'm Berry. If you enjoy this content, like and share with your friends. Also, don't forget to hit that sub button and notification bell so you always see my latest content. Let's start at the beginning. Fishermen see a terrifying monster in the water, which is the first piece of LGBT imagery in my opinion. These boatmen already come into this interaction, hyped up on stories about sea monsters. However, their expectations aren't even slightly in line with reality. Luca and Alberto wouldn't harm a fly without provocation. In this interaction, we can see how the assumptions we make about a community can impact our perceptions of reality. Then we go under the water to meet the main character, Luca. He tends to a flock of sheep. Even the herd of fish in this movie tell a story. This is a microcosm of the film to some extent. Luca is taking on the role of his parents, keeping the sheep in line with expectations, though some clearly want to leave. When doing his rounds, he discovers items from above the surface. Luca hides these items vigorously, so his family won't find out, worried about persecution for doing something outside the norm. However, these new feelings and experiences excite him. He fantasizes about going to the surface, but wakes up to reality. Interactions like these can be very common for LGBT members, to go out above the water and experience the world free from discrimination. Although for many people, these circumstances aren't ideal. Similar to Luca, many of us get targeted for who we are. So living under the water or in the closet is the only plausible solution given the circumstances. Luca then goes home to his family. His neurotic mother interrogates him on a usual basis about whether he came into contact with humans. She's actually a very understandable character, if we think about this movie from an LGBT perspective. She loves her son so much, and assumes the world won't accept him for who he is. Given the rampant discrimination, her fears make sense in a vacuum. Although Luca seems to have a good acceptance radar considering his choice of friends, she definitely loves her son, but her efforts are misplaced. Luca can't hold his feelings back any longer. He has an undeniable urge to explore this part of the world and himself. Like something out of a cartoon, he follows a trail of human trash until he runs into Alberto. The two quickly become friends in the narrative. Their relationship can be thought of as a friend helping another friend out of the closet. Alberto is confident in who he is, whereas Luca is more tentative. After some elbow grease, Alberto gets his new friend to come up to the surface. If you're still not convinced this is an allegory for the LGBT experience, maybe this next part will change your mind. Luca finds being out of the water jarring at first. At this moment, he says one of the saddest lines to me. Luca tells Alberto, "This can't be right, I'm a good kid." When there are inordinate amounts of discrimination towards a group of people, the group assumes they are bad or wrong for existing, which is extremely depressing. Many LGBT members experience a similar sentiment. Why am I gay or lesbian? How could this happen to me? It's important to remember, these feelings aren't without context. LGBT members aren't sad because they are LGBT. They have difficulties in their lives from constant discrimination. Alberto teaches Luca how to exist outside of the water. This interaction is short-lived because Luca must return home. After experiencing these exhilarating things for the first time, he has to go back. Together, the two go on fun adventures. For Alberto, shenanigans like these are an everyday occurrence. But for Luca, he feels like he's living for the first time. This sentiment is especially poignant for those in the closet. Hiding these parts of ourselves can be taxing, run down and tired from putting up a facade. Once we express who we are, the world is a completely different place. A fresh breath of air compared to the suffocating feelings of being underwater. The two have another day of fun in the sun. Alberto teaches Luca to silence his inner critic. Silencio, Bruno. Don't let the negative assumptions about yourself hold you back. When the day comes to a close, we get another heart-wrenching line from Luca. Your life is so much cooler than mine. He wishes that his family accepted this side of him, to be in the open air, free from worry and constraint. When Luca imagines a new reality, riding his Vespa, we get to see a lot into his internal thought process. He seems genuinely thrilled to be doing these things he never thought possible, feeling weightless, lifting up past the clouds, an expansion of perspective. Plus, there are no people in any of these imaginations. I think this is because people have expectations and potential bigotry in them, but space and nature have no expectations around what's acceptable. Let's take a quick tangent and talk about how relatable this scene is and why it's important. This notion of feeling comfortable in one's skin is such a touching sentiment even for non-LGBT members. Anyone who's experienced bullying or harassment in any form can understand Luca's plight. So why is this important? This movie can make LGBT issues more understandable to those who don't empathize with LGBT members. For example, let's say we have a person named Joe. Joe was bullied when he was a kid, but he's not on board with LGBT rights before watching this movie. Let's say his son Mark is gay. Joe watches the movie and resonates deeply with Luca's plight. He too wishes he didn't have to put up with harassment and mistreatment. Joe also imagined escaping his circumstances. Now let's say after watching this movie, his son builds up the courage to come out to his dad. Even if his dad isn't necessarily agreeable on LGBT issues, by empathizing with this experience on screen, he can potentially have more perspective. Joe doesn't have to be gay to understand how bad it feels to get discriminated against, to be ostracized for who he is. I think what Pixar did in this moment was pretty powerful. This isn't to say they shouldn't be criticized for gay baiting and coding, but I think making relatable sentiments like this can help people understand experiences outside their own. Joe might not understand his son, but he wants his son to feel safe and loved for who he is, similar to his own personal wants. Speaking of parenting, Luca's parents are an excellent example of overzealous control in a relationship. They want to ensure their child won't be caught, regardless of what he wants. They contact their creepy uncle to take him away to the depths. My girlfriend and I both found this scene super uncomfortable because of the implication. I don't know if this is a stretch, but it gave off gay conversion therapy or isolation vibes. They know Luca has nothing to do down in the depths but swim isolated. Not to mention the uncle's line about being alone with one's thoughts was super weird. What's the implication from the scene? You're gonna take Luca to the depths to accomplish what exactly? Make him hide who he is so he's never found out? Send him off to some weird place with an even weirder relative to suppress his feelings in the depths? Trapped between two worlds, Luca chooses to go with his heart. He leaves behind his family and joins Alberto to live amongst the humans. The two are confident at first, but soon realize that pretending to be human is more than they signed up for. Luca and Alberto stick out like sore thumbs. They don't know what's socially acceptable because of the isolation from humans. People look at them intensely, analyzing to see if something's off, always asking the characters where they are from. This extra level of interrogation is something that many gay people face on a daily basis, constantly having to justify the choices they make. By an unfortunate series of events, the group upsets the local bully Ercole, aka Senior Vespa. Ercole hounds them until Julia comes to save them. Luca and Alberto hear about a local race that has a large pool of prize money. With it, the two could hit the road and never deal with discrimination again. They convince Julia to help them. Luca and Alberto go to Julia's dad's house. They are almost caught, but they luck out. Alberto and Luca help Julia's dad to gain money for the entry fee into the race. Sorry for another slight tangent, but Julia's dad is such a good character because he subverts expectations so much. I think it's safe to say many of us thought he was going to have a tragic backstory with the Sea People, but instead, he ends up siding with Luca and Alberto right after Julia at the end of the film, which is so powerful. He has no reason to fear the kids because he knows them. Pixar didn't give him a reason to hate the Sea People. This way, he could base his choice off of his own experience, rather than a preconceived notion. He learned to love Luca and Alberto for who they were. If they were good fishermen, hard workers, and they treated his daughter well, then they are a-okay in his mind. He's even a father figure to Alberto, which we all know he needs right now. Life moves on for the time being, but Luca's parents get upset at his absence. They come to the surface searching for their child. Our hero continues to train while avoiding his parents. Ercole comes to harass him at every turn, going out of his way to make them feel otherized. Eventually, Julia and Luca have a touching moment together. Even though they have completely different experiences, they can understand how one another feels. By hanging out together, they discover Luca's passion for knowledge and exploration. After Luca and Alberto leave Julia's for the day, the dynamic duo is confronted and beat up by Ercole. They did nothing wrong. other than partake in the same banter he did earlier. Yet because they stand out, they specifically got targeted, which of course relates to LGBT issues. Many LGBT members face inordinate amounts of discrimination and persecution, including physical harassment and violence, showcasing the outcomes of radicalization from propaganda. As tensions rise in the narrative, Luca and Alberto get into a fight. Alberto reveals to Julia his true self to try and talk reason into Luca. Then something shocking happens. Luca decides to turn on his friend and scream "sea monster." This is a scene we definitely need to talk about. So if we're assuming this movie is an allegory for the LGBT experience, to me this scene symbolizes outing. Outing is the idea of disclosing another person's sexuality or gender identity without their consent. Luca outs Alberto to the local bullies. The reasoning behind it is very important. This occurrence can happen as it does in the movies, an act of self-preservation. Not that it justifies the action, but contextualizes it. To me, focusing on the LGBT community instead of the social pressures at large seems a bit fallacious. If people were free to express themselves as they wanted, outing wouldn't be an issue. Luca is uncomfortable with his sea half. He wants to hide it because he knows how dangerous the world is. So to save himself, he betrays his friends. That way, he doesn't run the risk of being caught himself. You can see almost immediately the pain and regret on Luca's face. He didn't want to do that, but he panicked in the situation. Being best buds, they patch things up pretty quickly. Luca joins the race, but with a handicap. Even despite the extra weight he has to carry, he still manages to come out in front, until the rain begins to give him away. Alberto comes to help his best friend, but gets revealed in the process. Senior Vespa is the first to strike as usual. In one of the most inspiring moments in the movie, Luca reveals himself to protect his friend, outing himself, so to speak. All the townspeople are in shock, ready to slaughter the kids. However, the big boy himself steps in on behalf of Julia's friends. This entire scene is so heartwarming and uplifting. At first, the humans look at the sea people with disgust and fear. However, after seeing them interact with Luca's parents, they completely change. We got something more meaningful than a big dramatic display to prove their humanity. A real life interaction. A child who's scared. All he wants to do is embrace his parents and hang out with his friends. The humanistic elements of this movie really help embody the importance of not assuming things about others. Literally seconds ago, the town was enraged, ready to kill based on these preconceived notions. These assumptions impact all of us on a day-to-day basis. When someone assumes something negative about members of the LGBT, their charitability and willingness to engage with them becomes limited. Suddenly, this community starts to resemble sea creatures in the person's mind. However, if we can look past these biases, then we can appreciate everyone for who they are. The humans aren't the only ones who get a redemption arc. Luca's parents have more clarity than they did in the beginning. They see how beautiful and amazing their son is when left to express himself how he pleases. The ending also shows us how much Alberto has changed as a character. We assume for the majority of the movie that he's the self-assured one in the narrative. However, Luca changed his life too. Alberto was confident about being out in the safety of the island, but his friend gave him an indispensable gift, the ability to love himself fully. Luca is an important entry in the Disney cinematic universe, even though it's not officially a gay film. I'm disappointed in Disney and Pixar, because this feels like such a missed opportunity. But at the same time, this entry is still significant. I think we should be critical but communal when interacting with Pixar and Disney. On one hand, it's pretty scummy to use LGBT experiences as a way to market a movie without follow-through. But at the same time, the impacts of this story can be significant to so many. We all need characters who feel relatable to us and our unique difficulties. Seeing components of ourselves in the media allows us to expand our perspective. That's why growing up, so many of us imprinted onto our favorite Disney characters to some extent. We have these relatable, cute characters that deal with issues similar to us. With a film like Luca, at least kids growing up have a character that maybe relates to their lived experiences a little more. To those kids who feel like they are drowning under the expectations of society, wanting to explore other sides of ourselves, trying to find some part of the world free from discrimination. These issues don't just matter to LGBT members, but everyone. We all want to live in a world and exist as our true selves. No one wants to constantly introspect if their existence is valid or justified. To me, this is the most poignant message in Luca. We need to love people for who they are, not what we want them to be. This concludes my breakdown of the LGBT imagery in Luca. While there's more to analyze, I didn't want to make this video too long. That being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments, and I'd be happy to do a follow-up. Also, let me know how you felt about the movie, or what it meant to you. We need more stories like Luca in mainstream culture. LGBT issues in particular never get the media coverage they deserve. I think we can all find something to take away from this movie. Next time we have an assumption about a particular person or group, let's take a breath and think. Do we want to make this person feel like Luca, drowning under the assumptions of others? Or do we want to offer this person an opportunity to let them show us who they truly are?